Mandela effect. Before I start the video, I just want to say I got this huge bag of cough drops. But it's honey lemon cough drops at the 99-cent store. And this is huge. It's bigger in real life than it is on video. For $1. $1. But I guess I'm just a worthless food eater. So let's get to the Mandela effect. And I pretty much repeat myself because what I'm really about is I want to report reality of things that are obvious and reality of things that might not be so obvious. The Mandela effect, for those of us that are going through it, is reality. We have woke up. Well, I wouldn't say woke. I would just say that we're realizing that things have changed. But things haven't really changed. We've actually were in one spot, and we have been moved to another spot. We have traveled millions and millions of light years. This is physically and relativity. We've traveled millions and millions of light years across universes and galaxies. We are on a parallel Earth, which is a mirror image of where we come from, but here it's slightly different. It's slightly different, but I want to say it could be a little less slightly different. What I'm trying to say is that there's actually a lot of different stuff here, more than I realized. I thought it was just a few, like things like Captain Crunch, and when you start seeing that islands have changed and our bone structure has changed and our heart and our liver, the more you start thinking about it, the more you start realizing that we're actually nowhere near where we came from. Because where we came from, there's 7 parallel universes exactly the same. If you were to jump to the very next one, you'd be hundreds of millions of light years away from your original place. And that is a great distance. Let alone if something slightly changed. Say Captain Crunch cereal. That was the only change here. But here, it was always capital N, Crunch. That would be a huge change. You would be 7 parallel universes away from that, plus another parallel universe. That's 8. So if every parallel universes are millions of light years apart, but there's 7 exactly the same, you would have to cross 7 of those that are exactly the same, which are millions of light years apart, to get onto the next one that's slightly different. There's so much differences here. We have our liver is different, our lungs are different, our heart is different, our skeleton is different, our spine is different. The islands have changed. The planets have changed. Captain Crunch, honeycombs, it goes on forever. So we are far from home. We are really, 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 really far. And it's funny we can be this far away, yet it could be farther. You could get to a place where Hitler won the war. You could get to a place where dinosaurs are still existing. There's dimensions like this that exist. Now that we know string theory is correct, it's real. It's a reality. Now that we know, because we travel, we know. People watching us think we're crazy, but we know for a fact that we grew up in a place where Captain Crunch was the real cereal. It's always been Captain Crunch. And a place where Kennedy was assassinated in a car with 4 people. That's a physical reality that we come from. So you're not in a place where your mind's being screwed with. I can see where you feel like you're being screwed with. You're in a physical place. You're in a different place physically. I'm in a different place physically. We are far from home, and it's weird because it seems like the same, doesn't it? It's so weird. But there is something different about it. You got to admit, you feel like a difference in the vibration, like in the harmonics. Do you feel a difference? I feel a difference. I can't explain it, but the world here, it seems like a smaller world. I don't know how to put it. It just seems like a smaller place. the place I'm from originally, it seemed like the world was huge, like huge. It seems smaller now. Maybe you feel more invincible. I don't know, but it's a reality, and it's very, very. I'm new to the Mandela effect. I mean, this must have happened years ago, but I never noticed it. I would go shopping and I would see, I would see like brands like Honeycomb change, and I would say, well, wasn't it Honeycombs? And I think they're just making everything hip. Like KFC used to be Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they made it shorter because people didn't want fried foods, and they started losing sales, so they shortened down the name to get their sales back. I thought people were just trying to be hip until I got a video on the Mandela effect where the guy explained there's actually a parallel shift. That interested me right away. I saw videos about a year ago where they were talking about the Mandela effect, and they made it sound like it was some kind of trend, Yeah, we have traveled physically, and it doesn't sound believable, but if you're like me and you remember things differently, then I want you to really try to absorb what I'm saying to you. You have traveled millions and millions and millions and millions of light years away from the Earth, physically. We are so far physically that our planets are not even able, at least the ones we're from and the one we're in now, the planet's not even able to get to the very next parallel universe, which is exactly the same. If they can travel through time and space and get to the very next one, scientists believe, this is a theory, that there's another planet Earth exactly the same. So we are like so far from that, we have to be at least, and I'm being real serious here, we have to be at least, and please try to understand, we have to do the math, this is weird, we have to be at least 200 to 300 universes away. Think about it. If there's 7 parallel universes exactly the same, right? 7, and something changes, that's 7 more. Something changes again, that's 7 more. I mean, you got a tattoo here saying the plane. You got, if you do the math on it, everything that you have noticed so far that has been different, there's stuff we don't even realize. Friends that we don't realize that, I'm almost 50. So in elementary school, junior high school, I'm in the body of my replica. Even his body's different. His heart is over here instead of over here. You know what I mean? His lungs are shorter instead of longer. We come from our lungs were longer. Here they're shorter. The spine is huge. We come from the spine to a fin. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm in the body of my replica, but I physically look the same on the outside. On the outside, I look the same. I look the same on the outside. But the point I'm making is that I don't really know this guy's past. I mean, I'm in the same situation because I didn't really notice the change when it happened. I was living here because there was a few other changes before I moved here, and there's a few changes when I first got here. But they were like by myself, like different, like the buffalo were extinct when I was a kid, and they were almost extinct when I got older. When I moved here, Star Trek: The Next Generation, 1990, was about to be premiered, and then a few years later, my brother said it was premiered in 1987. So these are the changes I went through alone. But something happened in 2010, according to you guys who are making the videos out there, that we've done a shift. So I'm just trying to say, if you just do the math, it's amazing. We are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of miles away from our Earth, if the theory is correct. That there's 7 parallel universes exactly the same, and from that moment on, anything you could think of is possible, but it slightly starts to branch off. One, you have no arm, but everything else is the same. Everything's the same, but you were born with no arm. And then that's 7 of those. And then there's another one where you're born with no legs, but everything's the same. Then there's one where you're born with no legs, but one thing's different. Then there's one where you're born with no legs, and then there's 2 things that are different. And it goes on and on and on. We are so far from home. It's amazing to realize that this stuff is real. And I went to, I drove by my old house in Encanto, where I'm from, by Lemon Grove in San Diego. And I lived there for 20 years off and on, but that was my grandfather's home. And I lived with my grandfather when I was a kid for about a year. We moved in and out, my mom, moved to Yuma for a couple years back, but the point is that the house looks the same. It's in Kanto. You know what I mean? It's in Kanto, and there's the Veld gang is still there. This Cholo gang, I mean, you know, I didn't see anybody, but these are people I grew up with in junior high school, and it's just weird. It's hard to believe that string theory was correct, but it points that direction, doesn't it? I'm going bald, so I'm almost 50, like I said, but what you need to know is that I don't think the shift is over, because this thing called residue is confusing me. According to string theory, we parallel shifted. Okay, we have a different memory of a different timeline than this timeline that we're on now, but residue shouldn't be popping up. To be seeing things, and I heard that if they were to go back and to change one thing in history, time travel, it's one thing, it would cause a major problem. It would cause different events to start changing in the past on their own. And what happens is parallel universes that exist start crisscrossing each other. Example, if I was to go back in time and save Michael Jackson from getting his hair caught on fire, and that was all I did, and then I changed it, that would cause a ripple in the time continuum that would cause all the parallel universes to start crisscrossing. It's almost like you, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like you pull a brick out of a brick house, and the house starts to fall down. Or in the grocery store, you ever go like grab like a avocado, and they're like stacked up nice. You ever do that before? You go grab an avocado, and they're like, you're afraid they're all going to roll over, and you grab one, and they all start to roll over. Well, I haven't done that, but I had a friend that did that. He grabbed, and I saw it coming. He grabbed it, and I was like, oh man. And I tried to grab it, and most of the stuff fell on the ground. It rolled all over the place. I'm like pushing it out with my chest. But the point I'm making is that that's what happened. If somebody did go back in time, which I heard they did, I heard they went back purposely to change something in the Bible, because the people that run the world are devil worshippers, and if you don't believe me, their symbols are all over the stuff you buy. Even CERN, the ones that are messing with parallel universes with dimensions, their logo is 666. Now, I heard that they possibly went back in time and changed something in the Bible, which caused this ripple effect. They can't stop. They can't stop it because they don't know what they're doing. Now the devil, the Antichrist, is going to be forced to come onto the scene because now everything's about to end. What's happening in theory is that there's a heaven and there's a hell. There's a paradise and there's a place of punishment. And that all these dimensions that we live on are in between was for us to be born and have a chance to be saved by God, by Jesus. Now that they've been messed with, all the stuff in between heaven and hell are going to start crisscrossing, messing up. Heaven and hell is going to get closer and closer and closer together until everything in the middle evaporates. And all you're going to be left with is heaven and hell. You understand what I'm saying? All the extremes, all the stuff in the middle, is going to crisscross, 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 and eventually all you're going to be left with is heaven and hell, the extremes. And based on what kind of person you are and what God thinks is where you're going to end up in that dimension when it's all over. It can be a matter of months, a matter of years. That's just a theory, though. But to prove that they could have went back and changed something inside the Bible, to prove it, you can go in the search in YouTube, in the search box, and type in New World Order Bible. You're going to get a Baptist church that did their research on all the Bibles, on the New Translation, the New King James, and they found that the people financing the new Bibles, the globalists, the people that run the main media, the people that run the world, have been financing all the new Bibles with billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, and they've been taking out deity pertaining to Christ. Now go in the search box, type in New World Order Bible, you'll get a documentary that will pop up, and this guy will show you passage after passage that were in the New Translation and the New King James, where deity pertaining to Christ has been removed from the new Bibles. Why would the trillionaires that run the world be financing Bible stuff? And why would they be taking out deity pertaining to Christ if Christ wasn't real? Makes you say, makes you think, doesn't it? Yeah. So thanks for watching. I will do an update tomorrow. I'm still blown away by this whole thing. I think it's very interesting. I'm into science. I'm into Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie. I like the TV show Sliders, and here we are. It's happening. And we all have something in common because we remember an Earth. To me, I liked it a lot better. I'll be honest, I liked it a lot better. The people here, and I'm not trying to bash them, but and it might not be their fault. It might be that there's like a daze going on, and it might be the poisons in the sky and the stuff that they're doing to us with the chemtrails and the fluoride in the water and the GMOs. But it does seem like everybody's a little loopy. You know what I mean? Like I ordered a shake at Jack in the Box. I asked her for a straw, and she looked at me like I was nuts. And then she forgot to give me the straw. Then I asked her again. She gave me a straw. She said my spoon was in the bag. I went. I drove around the block. I said, I better check. I looked in the bag, and the spoon was missing. So I went back again and got a spoon. Then she looked at me like I was crazy because I'm asking for a spoon. I'm asking for a spoon for a shake. You know how thick their shakes are. They're real thick. Like ice cream, you know. You have to have a spoon. Anyway, it's like every day. People are like, there's something in the air where people are real hostile right now. They're real violent. People are suffering more than ever in America too. They're poorer than I've ever seen them. The economy is horrible. Barack Obama hasn't done. He hasn't fixed anything. He said he fixed anything. He hasn't fixed anything. I've never seen the economy this bad. In my opinion, him and George Bush were the worst presidents we've ever had, and Carter. But we'll see what Trump does. I like Trump. I think Donald Trump's cool, but we'll see what happens. By the way, is this Donald Trump, right? I mean, I wonder if in our reality it's Donald Trump is running for president. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.